Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. Today, as per usual, we'll go over the market, go over Tesla, what happened moving forward, of course, what it means as well for tomorrow and a bit of next week and all of that good stuff as per usual. But moving into what Tesla is looking like it will be closing the day green up about 3.4%, putting us at just over $161 compared to the market. Not too shabby whatsoever, right? A bit of an outperformance, but nothing absolutely substantial. The market seems a little bit nervous overall for Apple earnings coming up right after the market closes, which is a big deal. Apple's a major stock. It's literally the stock, arguably, right? So whatever happens to Apple will affect the market, which of course affects Tesla. But all that being said, guys, keep in mind, if you enjoyed the video, not to hit that like button. And of course, this is not financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research. And starting next week, I will be opening up the membership club for $299 a month, where I'll be posting updates real time as for Tesla as it moves and it does certain things during market hours. And I think that's substantial and worth sharing from my point of view, which sometimes could be often in one day, sometimes it could take a few days. It depends on what's actually happening with the stock. But nonetheless, moving into it, pretty important stuff for the most part, but overall a sideways day, right? It started off with a little bit of volatility, but you can see it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter, right? So we talked about yesterday how Tesla's inside one of two situations here, right? Whether it's inside this kind of, bull flag essentially right here, the two parallel lines to each other, or it's inside this line up here and then the one that's kind of rising up. So far, it seems like it's the rising up one, but nonetheless, we have both of them laid out just in case to have an idea to follow both potential paths. And today we did come to the very bottom of this rising line. We came to pretty much below it, actually, arguably closed below it. Again, my line's it's not like perfect, but pretty much closed right more or less at the line, give or take, and then completely got rallied back into it, came back, retested it again, almost twice, arguably right here, rallied off of it twice, and then we're now closing towards the closer part of the line once again. So essentially the market looking a little bit nervous moving into, the Apple earnings coming up, and rightfully so. Like we said, it is a major player. I think we can all agree on that. But we are still finding ourselves within this situation, right? Until this resolves one way or another, and in my opinion, until it falls either below this or rises above this, to me right now, Tesla is once again back in limbo land, or in other words, consolidation mode, right? Which is very common, nothing unusual whatsoever. Similar to when Tesla, for instance, rallied all the way up here, and then where was it? Let's go up to the 4-hour chart, right? Similar to when Tesla made this massive rally and then consolidated, then had this massive move, then had a massive move, then consolidated, and now another massive move, right? Very common, absolutely normal stuff. It's just a matter of now patiently waiting until Tesla finally decides a direction, or picks a direction to actually make an actual move. So that's more or less what we're waiting on right now with Apple earnings on deck. So I definitely want to be paying attention to that one. That's gonna be important stuff. But other than that, there's really not that much more to update today, in all honesty, relative to what we already talked about yesterday. Because today, in all honesty, even though it was somewhat volatile to start the day, it's essentially just playing within the time or within the range that we've discussed so far. But taking a look very quickly on the daily, we're having some very interesting candles on the daily. So this, here, let me zoom in a little bit here. So this red candle just a few days ago, a hammer candle, which is a bullish candle. This is again almost an inverted hammer candle, though it's a long wick at the bottom, so I would personally ignore this. However, yesterday we had arguably a bearish candle, though it's usually a reversal, though there's not much to reverse. We haven't really done much of a rally, so we somewhat ignored that, rightfully so, clearly so far. And now we're getting yet another hammer candle, similar to the one we had over here, right, just a few days ago. Now we're having it here again, which signals potential more upside. So we're getting a lot of mixed signals right now on the daily with these daily candle closures. I personally still believe that there's more upside potential than downside. Now, I want to make it very clear, just because I personally think that there's a higher probability that we have an overall net rally to somewhere again into the 170s, even though I think that's a higher chance, maybe like a 70 or so percent chance, 60-70% chance of that happening, that doesn't mean that you want to ignore the other maybe like I say 30 to 40% of potential downside, which is of course maybe at the very least coming down all the way here, if not to our major target, which is this gap fill, which is around 145-ish, right? You never want to completely ignore those. So for instance, you don't want to just go like all in on some short-term calls and just betting on that it's going to rally from here because some guy on the internet said. Never want to do that. Just my opinion, not financial advice, make your own decisions, but that's just the way I look at it. So you always want to be hedged or prepared for both scenarios, with of course one of them being more favorable. So that's the way I personally play it, right? But nonetheless, we still find ourselves trading within this range. The RSI in the 1 hour is still looking kind of, neutral for at least for now, right? It's not really showing that much. It's kind of just following the chart at the moment, not doing too much, right? Taking a look in the daily, we just talked about nothing really happening as well. But if we move in over to our major indicators, We have the 21 EMA, which is still well above us. We have the Bollinger Band, which is still, very much expanded, but you can see it's slowly starting to come together, slowly trying to find a way to recondense itself, if you will, like it usually does after a massive rally. So far, it'll take some time, especially on a daily, before that even condenses anything meaningful. But for now, it's, there's really not much more to say other than the fact that, there is a chance that we come up to this white line, which of course is around that 171 level at the very moment. Very common to, once Tesla does pick a direction, that it always comes back to the median, if you will, and then kind of, dances around it for a little bit, then goes up to the other side again. So for instance, when I had this massive rally here, it was hugging the green line for quite some time. And then once it finally consolidated for a little bit and, kind of found that, peak-ish, at least for now, you can see it caught up to the white line. Same thing here, fell well below, hugged the red line for a while, and then came up to the white line, then went to the green line, came back to, the point is it almost always reverts back to the median, right? In this case, I do think something like that will happen, which is why I personally am slightly more bullish than bearish at the very moment. You can see in the 1 hour, it is actually condensing, so a big move is piling up for the short term. It's not going to be some overall massive move, but it will be like a decent move, at least for the next, maybe early to mid next week or something like that, I would guess, maybe even tomorrow, in all honesty, right? But again, I personally believe that, there is definitely a very good chance that we come up to the white line, which again is pretty much just, on the entry level of the $170 range. But again, I also believe that it is very possible to potentially go up even as high as 180, because again, looking on the weekly candle, right, we did have a beautiful weekly closure on this candle last week, though the follow-up this week has been so far not the greatest. But with Apple earnings coming up today, we have 1 day tomorrow of the week left to really play this out and for the market to potentially find a pretty massive move based on how Apple's earnings goes, which can completely change the way this weekly candle that we have so far forming looks by the end of tomorrow. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Very important to let that actually fully finish before you give this weekly candle a final result or a final thoughts, if you will. So that's something else important to understand. Speaking of which, while we're on the weekly, let's take a look at the 100-day moving average. Where is it? Just to reiterate, well above us. Okay, so nothing really too much to consider there. 50-day moving average, you can see, is also all the way up there. And then let's bring out the 200-day moving average over here very quickly and see where that thing is chilling. And that's pretty much not too far above us, actually sitting at pretty much $180. This is interesting to me. So like I said, 180, very real possibility, especially with this kind of weekly candle that formed last week. So we'll see how, tomorrow shapes up after Apple's earnings. But, we talked about how 180, in my opinion, is the best case scenario, right? And if we do get to 180, which there's a chance that, I'd be genuinely surprised if we go much higher than that. Well, there's the 200-day moving average on the weekly, pretty much right then and there, ready to resist us if we do end up forming up to this level. So again, keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. If we do get a rally into the 170s, I'll be surprised if it goes much higher than 180. If it maybe even gets to 180, just keep that in mind. But all that being said and done, not much more to talk about for the most part, right? So it's just kind of following what we've been saying. We're just kind of waiting for this situation to play out. Maybe it won't even play out this week. Who knows? And maybe next week I'll let you guys know as it plays out in the members section of the channel. So yeah, other than that, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see where this takes us. Everyone's going to be watching Apple's earnings, definitely coming up anytime now, any minute now. That's going to be pretty big stuff. So make sure you're paying attention to that. But other than that, this is the most important thing to pay attention to for now, and for to wait for it to play out. Essentially, as right now, it's currently decaying options. Essentially, if you have any bought options, that's usually how this works, right? But nonetheless, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.